Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the English Podcast Classroom. I'm Mia.
And I'm Henry. Hi, everybody. It's great to have you here with us today.
We're so happy you're listening. Today, we're going to talk about something that everyone deals with every single day. Can you guess what it is, Henry?
Let me think. Is it something we all use to get from place to place?
Exactly. Today's topic is how to talk about transportation in English. We'll cover all the vocabulary, expressions, and phrases you need to talk about buses, trains, cars, and so much more.
And you know what? Transportation is one of those topics that comes up all the time in conversations. Whether you're traveling, going to work, or just chatting with friends about your day, you'll need these words and phrases.
That's so true. And the best part is, we're going to make this fun and practical. We'll share some of our own travel experiences, some funny stories, and teach you exactly how native speakers talk about getting around.
Right, so just relax, listen, and don't worry if you don't catch everything the first time. You can always listen again. And hey, try to repeat some of the phrases out loud as we go. That's the best way to practice.
Absolutely. Making mistakes is totally fine. That's how we learn. So let's get started, shall we?
Let's do it. So, Mia, let me ask you a simple question. How do you usually get to work every day?
Oh, that's a great starting question. I usually take the subway. In my city, the subway system is really convenient, and it runs pretty frequently, so I don't have to wait too long.
Nice. So you would say, I take the subway to work. Now, that word take is really important. When we talk about transportation, we usually say take the bus, take the train, take a taxi, or take the subway.
Exactly. But there are some exceptions. For example, if you're talking about a car, you would say drive a car or go by car. And if you're talking about a bicycle, you'd say ride a bike or cycle.
Good point. And if you're walking, you just say I walk or I go on foot. Pretty simple, right?
Yeah. So, Henry, what about you? How do you get to work?
Well, I usually take the bus. There's a bus stop right near my apartment, and it drops me off pretty close to my office. The whole journey takes about 30 minutes.
That's not bad at all. Do you ever have problems with delays or traffic?
Oh, all the time. Sometimes the traffic is terrible in the morning, especially during rush hour. You know what rush hour is, right? That's the time of day when everyone is going to work or coming home, usually between 7 and 9 in the morning and 5 and 7 in the evening.
Yes, rush hour can be crazy. The roads are packed with cars, the buses are full, and everything just moves so slowly. When that happens, I always say, I'm stuck in traffic. That means you can't move because there are too many vehicles on the road.
Exactly. And when I'm stuck in traffic on the bus, I always think, maybe I should have taken the subway instead. But you know what? The subway has its problems too.
Oh, for sure. Sometimes there are delays on the subway. A delay means something is late or not on schedule. So if the train doesn't come on time, you can say, there's a delay on the subway line, or my train was delayed by 15 minutes.
And that's so frustrating, especially when you're trying to get somewhere on time. Has that ever happened to you?
Oh, yes, many times. Actually, just last week, I missed an important meeting because there was a huge delay on my subway line. I waited on the platform for almost 20 minutes.
Oh no, what did you do?
Well, I called my boss and explained the situation. I said, I'm sorry, I'm running late because of a subway delay. Luckily, she understood. These things happen.
Yeah, transportation problems are pretty universal. Everyone understands that sometimes things go wrong. Speaking of which, let's talk about some common phrases people use when they're talking about transportation problems.
Good idea. So if you miss your bus or train, you can say, I missed the bus or I missed my train. This means you arrived at the stop too late and the bus or train already left.
Right. And if that happens, you might need to wait for the next one. You could say, I'll have to catch the next bus or I'll take the next train.
And here's another useful phrase. If you're running late and worried about missing your transportation, you might say, I need to hurry or I'll miss my bus. Or we'd better run or we'll miss the train.
I've said that so many times. There's nothing worse than seeing your bus pull away just as you get to the stop.
I know, right? It's the worst feeling. Okay, let's talk about asking for directions and information about transportation. This is super useful, especially if you're traveling or in a new place.
Absolutely. So imagine you're in a new city and you need to get somewhere. The first question you might ask is, how can I get to the museum? Or what's the best way to get to the airport?
Perfect. And someone might answer, you can take bus number 12, or the subway is the fastest option. They might also say, you should take a taxi if the place is hard to reach by public transportation.
Good examples. Now, here's another common question. Is there a bus that goes to the city center? This is asking if a bus route exists that will take you where you want to go.
Yes. And you might hear answers like, yes, bus number 20 goes directly there. Or, no, but you can take the subway instead.
Another question you'll hear a lot is, where's the nearest bus stop or where's the nearest subway station? The word nearest means closest to where you are right now.
Right. And when someone gives you directions, they might say things like, the bus stop is just around the corner, or the subway station is 2 blocks away. A block is the distance between 2 streets in a city.
Exactly. Now, let's talk about some differences between public and private transportation. Mia, what do you think are the advantages of public transportation?
Well, public transportation usually refers to buses, trains, subways, and trams that everyone can use. The big advantages are that it's usually cheaper than driving your own car, and you don't have to worry about parking.
That's true. Parking in a big city can be such a headache, and it can be really expensive too. But what about the disadvantages?
Well, public transportation can be crowded, especially during rush hour. Sometimes you have to stand the whole way if there are no seats available.
Yeah, and you're also dependent on the schedule. If the last bus leaves at 11 p.m. and you're out later than that, you're out of luck.
Exactly. That's when private transportation becomes really useful. Private transportation means things like your own car, a taxi, or these days, ride-sharing services.
Right. If you have your own car, you have complete freedom. You can leave whenever you want and take whatever route you prefer. But of course, you have to pay for gas, insurance, and maintenance.
And don't forget about traffic. Even if you have a car, you still get stuck in traffic. Although at least you're sitting in a comfortable seat and you can listen to your own music.
That's true. Now, let's talk about taxis for a moment. Do you take taxis often, Mia?
Not super often, but when I do, I find them really convenient. If I'm in a hurry or carrying heavy bags, a taxi is perfect. You can just say to the driver, "Can you take me to the train station, please?" Or, "I need to go to this address."
And these days, there are also ride-sharing apps that work like taxis, but you book them through your phone. They're often cheaper than traditional taxis, too.
Yes. And one phrase you'll hear with taxis is hail a cab. That means to wave your hand to stop a taxi on the street. You might say, "I tried to hail a cab, but they were all full."
Good one. Now, let's not forget about more environmentally friendly options like bicycles. Do you ever cycle, Mia?
I do sometimes, especially on weekends when I'm not in a hurry. Riding a bike is great exercise, and it's good for the environment. Plus, in some cities, there are special bike lanes, which makes it safer.
Yeah, bike lanes are really important. They're special parts of the road just for bicycles. But not every city has them, unfortunately. In places without bike lanes, cycling can be a bit dangerous because you have to share the road with cars.
That's true. And another thing to mention is bike sharing programs. Many cities now have bicycles that you can rent for a short time. You just pick one up from a bike station and drop it off at another station when you're done.
Oh yeah, those are really popular now. It's a great option if you don't own a bike but want to use one occasionally. Okay, what about walking? That's the most basic form of transportation.
Walking is wonderful. It's free, it's healthy, and you don't have to worry about schedules or traffic. If something is close enough, I always prefer to walk. You could say it's within walking distance to mean that something is close enough to reach on foot.
Right. For example, you might say, the grocery store is within walking distance from my house. Or, is the museum within walking distance, or should we take a bus?
Perfect examples. Now, Henry, I'm curious, have you ever had any funny or interesting experiences with transportation?
Oh, definitely. Let me tell you about this one time I was traveling in another country. I needed to get to the airport, and I thought I got on the right bus. But I didn't check carefully enough, and the bus took me in completely the opposite direction.
Oh no, what did you do?
Well, I realized my mistake after about 20 minutes. I got off at the next stop and had to take a taxi all the way to the airport. It cost me way more money than it should have, and I almost missed my flight.
That's a nightmare. But at least you made it in time. That reminds me of a useful expression. I almost missed my flight means you nearly didn't make it, but you did at the last minute.
Exactly. And let me tell you, I learned my lesson. Now I always double check which bus or train I'm getting on. I'll ask the driver, does this bus go to the airport? Just to make sure.
That's smart. I have a funny story too. One time I fell asleep on the subway and missed my stop. I woke up at the end of the line, which was way past where I needed to be.
That happens to more people than you'd think. When you're tired after a long day, it's easy to doze off. So you had to take the subway all the way back?
Yep. It added almost 40 minutes to my journey. Now I always set an alarm on my phone if I'm taking a long subway ride and I'm feeling sleepy.
That's a great tip. Okay, let's talk about some more useful expressions. What would you say if you want to suggest taking a different form of transportation?
Oh, good question. You could say, let's take a taxi instead. Or, why don't we walk instead? It's not that far. The word instead means choosing one option rather than another.
Right. You might also say, how about we take the subway? It'll be faster. Or maybe we should drive. The bus takes too long.
Exactly. And here's another common situation. What if you're meeting someone and you need to tell them how you're planning to get there?
Oh, that's easy. You could say, I'm going to drive there. Or I'll take the bus and meet you at 6. You might also say, I'm planning to cycle if the weather's nice. Or I'll probably just walk since it's close.
Perfect. And if you're asking someone about their plans, you could say, how are you getting there? Or what time will you arrive?
Good ones. Now, let's talk about some expressions related to time and travel. For example, if someone asks, how long does it take to get there? What does that mean?
That's asking about the duration of the journey. So you might answer, it takes about 30 minutes by bus, or it only takes 10 minutes if you drive.
Exactly. And notice we use take when talking about time too. It's a bit different from take the bus, but the word is the same. You could say, the journey takes an hour, or it took me 2 hours to get home because of the traffic.
Good explanation. Another time-related phrase is on time. If something is on time, it arrives or departs at the scheduled time. For example, the train left on time. Or, I hope the bus comes on time today.
And the opposite is late, right? The train was late, or my bus is running late, means it didn't arrive at the expected time.
Exactly. Here's another one. Ahead of schedule. This means something arrives or departs earlier than planned. You might say, surprisingly, the train arrived ahead of schedule. Or, we got there ahead of schedule because there was no traffic.
Nice. Though, honestly, that doesn't happen very often. Now, let's talk about some expressions people use when they're frustrated with transportation.
Oh, this will be fun. Okay, here's a common one. This traffic is killing me. Of course, the traffic isn't actually dangerous, but this is an exaggerated way of saying the traffic is really bad and frustrating.
Yes, we say that all the time. Another one is, I'm so fed up with these delays. The phrase fed up with means you're very annoyed or tired of something that keeps happening.
Right. You might also hear, the bus is packed, or this train is absolutely packed. That means it's completely full of people with no room to move.
Oh, I hate when that happens, especially in the summer when it's hot. Another expression is, it's like sardines in here. Sardines are small fish that come packed tightly in a can. So this is a funny way of saying there are too many people crammed into a small space.
That's such a great expression. Okay, what about when you're describing a comfortable journey? What could you say?
You might say, the ride was smooth, or it was a comfortable journey. If you got a seat, you could say, luckily, I managed to get a seat. Or, I got a window seat, which was nice.
And if you're describing a fast journey, you could say, the trip was quick. Or, we made good time. Making good time, it means you traveled faster than expected or without delays.
Exactly. Now, let's talk about paying for transportation. What are some common phrases related to tickets and fares?
Good topic. So, first of all, a fare is the price you pay to use transportation. You might say, what's the fare to the city center? Or, the bus fare is $2.
Right. And a ticket is what you buy to prove you've paid. You could say, I need to buy a ticket. Or, don't forget to validate your ticket. In some places, you have to put your ticket in a machine to stamp it before you get on.
Yes, and there are different types of tickets. A single ticket or one-way ticket is for one journey in one direction. A return ticket or round-trip ticket is for going somewhere and coming back.
Exactly. You might also hear about a day pass or weekly pass. These let you use transportation as many times as you want during that period. You could say, I bought a day pass so I can take the bus and subway all day.
That's usually a good deal if you're going to make several trips. Another thing to mention is topping up your travel card. Some cities have cards that you load with money and you tap them when you get on. When your balance gets low, you need to top up, which means add more money.
Good point. You'd say, I need to top up my card, or where can I top up my travel card?
Okay, Henry, let's talk about long-distance travel now. What about trains that go between cities or even between countries?
Oh, that's a great topic. So for longer journeys, you might take a train, a bus, or fly on an airplane. Each one has different vocabulary. For trains, you might hear about platforms. A platform is where you wait for your train and where you get on. You'd say, the train to Boston leaves from platform 5.
Right. And you might also hear departure and arrival. Departure is when the train leaves, and arrival is when it gets to the destination. What's the departure time? Or when is the arrival time?
Exactly. And for longer train journeys, there might be different classes. First class is more expensive, but more comfortable. And second class or standard class is cheaper, but might be more crowded.
Yes. And on really long train journeys, there might be a dining car or restaurant car where you can buy food. And sometimes there are sleeping cars if it's an overnight train.
Right. Now, what about buses for long distances? They're usually called coaches in some countries. You might say, I'm taking a coach to visit my cousin. Or the coach journey takes about 4 hours.
Yes, and with both trains and coaches, you usually need to book in advance for long distances. You'd say, I need to book a ticket, or have you booked your train ticket yet?
Good one. Now, let's talk about flying. That has its own special vocabulary. The place where planes take off and land is called an airport, and you need to check in before your flight.
Right. Check-in means you register for your flight and maybe drop off your luggage. You'd say, what time do we need to check in? Or check-in opens 3 hours before the flight.
Right. And then you go through security, which can sometimes take a while. After security, you go to your gate. The gate is where you wait to board the plane. You might hear an announcement saying, flight number 456 to Paris is now boarding at gate 12.
Exactly. And boarding means getting on the plane. You might say, they've started boarding, or our flight is boarding now.
Right. And once you're on the plane, you find your seat. You might have an aisle seat, which is next to the walkway, a window seat, which is next to the window, or a middle seat, which is between the other two.
I always prefer a window seat. It's nice to look out at the clouds. Okay, so we've covered buses, trains, subways, taxis, bikes, walking, and airplanes. Is there anything else we should mention?
What about boats and ferries? In some cities, especially ones near water, you can take a ferry to get around. A ferry is a boat that carries passengers and sometimes cars across water.
Oh, good point. You'd say, let's take the ferry across the river. or the ferry runs every 30 minutes. Some cities also have water taxis or water buses.
Right. And in places with rivers or canals, boat transportation can actually be faster than roads because there's no traffic.
That's true. Okay, Henry, I think we've covered most of the main types of transportation. Should we do a quick review of some key phrases?
Absolutely. That's a great idea. So let's go through some of the most useful expressions we've talked about today. First, when talking about how you travel regularly, you can say, I take the bus to work, I drive to work, I ride my bike, or I walk.
Perfect. And when asking for directions or information, you can say, how can I get to the museum? Is there a bus that goes to the airport? Where's the nearest subway station? Or what's the best way to get there?
Great. For talking about problems and delays, you might say, I'm stuck in traffic. The train was delayed. I missed my bus. Or the traffic is terrible today.
And for time-related phrases, you can say, how long does it take? It takes about 30 minutes. The bus is running late, or I hope we arrive on time.
Excellent. For suggesting different options, you could say, let's take a taxi instead. Why don't we walk? How about taking the subway? Or maybe we should drive.
And when describing your journey, you might say, the ride was smooth. The train was packed. I managed to get a seat, or we made good time.
Perfect summary. I think we've really covered a lot today. Transportation vocabulary is so useful because you use it every single day, whether you're actually traveling or just making plans with friends.
Absolutely. And the great thing is, once you know these words and phrases, you'll hear them everywhere in conversations, in announcements at train stations, in directions people give you. It all starts to make sense.
That's so true. And remember, the best way to learn this vocabulary is to use it. Try to describe your daily commute in English, even if it's just to yourself. Practice asking for directions, even if you already know the way.
Great advice. And if you're listening to this podcast while you're on a bus or train, look around and try to think of the English words for what you see. The doors, the seats, the other passengers, the stops.
Yes, make it a game. The more you practice, the more natural it will become. And don't worry about making mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes when they're learning. That's completely normal and okay.
Exactly. Even native speakers sometimes mix up words or forget what they want to say. The important thing is to keep practicing and not give up.
Well said, Mia. So I think that brings us to the end of today's episode. We've talked about buses, trains, subways, taxis, bicycles, walking, and even airplanes and ferries.
We've covered so much, from everyday commutes to long-distance travel, from asking directions to complaining about delays. I hope all of our listeners feel more confident about talking about transportation in English now.
Me too. And remember, if you want to practice more, try having a conversation with a friend about how you get to work or school. Or next time you're planning a trip, try to discuss all the transportation options in English.
That's perfect practice. And hey, if you're enjoying these podcasts, please don't forget to subscribe to the English Podcast Classroom. We release new episodes regularly with different topics to help you improve your English.
Yes, please subscribe. And if you have any topics you'd like us to cover in future episodes, let us know. We love hearing from our listeners.
Absolutely. We're here to help you learn English in a fun and practical way. Every episode is designed to give you real vocabulary and expressions that you can use in your everyday life.
That's right. Learning English should be enjoyable, not stressful. So keep listening, keep practicing, and most importantly, keep having fun with it.
Couldn't agree more. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode about transportation. We hope you learned lots of useful words and phrases.
Yes, thank you for spending this time with us. Remember, whether you take the bus, ride a bike, or walk, you now know how to talk about it in English.
That's a great way to put it, Henry. Okay, everyone. Until next time, keep practicing your English, and we'll see you in the next episode of the English Podcast Classroom.
Take care, everyone, and happy travels. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone. See you next time.